All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to start calling you out by name if you don't sit down. Turn it up. How do you turn it? Is that as loud as it'll go? Is that better? There we go. All right, folks. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. We are live streaming this, so getting all the technology going. Thank you for that. Well, welcome out. Thank you for coming out. My name is Tyler Bybee. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director here for the city. Just celebrated my 4th year on tax day. I didn't know I started on tax day, April 15th. So time has flown by, but one thing we've always, I know when I first came, is the need for more recreation. And we've added a recreation coordinator since then, and we've started doing programming. And then a few months back, the need for a study came up, and through Samsung Quality of Life funds, we were able to fund the study, and we're nearing the end of the study. So tonight, what you're going to see is the findings and recommendations thus far, and we want to get your feedback on if we're on the right track and what you think of what we've done so far. So there's been a lot of engagement. I'm going to do a few slides and then hand it over to the team. But the guys that are here tonight, the principal in charge is Keith Hayes, and then Mick Massey's here from BRS. So BRS, they can speak about it a little more, but they focus on public structures, mostly recreation centers. So this is what they do day in and day out, and it has really shown. Do some amazing things. And then with operations and the numbers, we had Ballard King. HAF helped with land development, and then WTI helped with the aquatics components. So we had a steering committee that was appointed by council, and we have some council members here tonight. We have Councilman Robert Garcia and Councilwoman Shelley Cobb is here as well. So they each appointed a person to the steering committee. So we have Jim Buzon, John Matthews, Quincy Griffin, John McDonald, Julie Rydell, and then Michelle Glaze was, there you go. So I want to thank council for appointing that group, just an amazing group to work with. We went on a trip to DFW to look at some of the newer centers that BRS has designed, and you really get a feel for the impact that those centers are having on those communities, so thank you. And then staff support, Jeff Jenkins, Deputy City Manager. I want to say a special thank you to Jeff Jenkins. He's only got a couple weeks left. This may be his last thing he's a part of. But just thank you for being a great supervisor and boss for 4 years, and for his guidance and everything he's done for the city of Taylor. Thank you, Jeff. And then we have Brian LeBourg here in the front. He's not on the list, but yeah, city manager. Yeah, Betsy, Lisa, Matt, the Parks and Rec team, and then Daniel Seguin, who couldn't be here tonight, but was part of the. He's listening in the ether. So I want to hand it over to Mick now, Mick Massey, and he's going to take you through the rest of the presentation. Thank you all for coming out.
All right. Well, thank you for being here. First, I want to just point out that at Barker Rinker CCAT, or BRS Architecture, we've used a process to get the best results as we go through and try to help communities figure out what's the solution, what are we trying to solve that we need in our community. And so it starts with a triangle that's made of program, budget, and schedule. If we find that we can balance that triangle of what are we going to build, how big does it need to be, that's the program. And then what's that going to cost? And then the schedule has everything to do with that budget, because time is money and it will add up over time. If there's delays or if we don't have the right schedule that feels right for taking on such a big project, that can add time to it as well. And then very, very important is a business plan surrounding that with operations. What's it going to cost to operate this building? And we'll get into that a little bit, because operations can change the triangle as well. And we find that if we go around and around that triangle, first we're going to find out our program may be too big because our budget is now too big, or we might need to hit the brakes for a while to find the right schedule. Once we do find the right balance for a community, usually we're dialing in a really good project. So let's go through what that looks like. First of all, we've been on a schedule for this study all the way back in August of 2024. So this has been going on for a little bit. We kicked off with staff, came into Taylor, and had a public meeting. We met with the steering committee, and they helped us with a wish list. And then they went on some tours of the DFW area that Tyler was pointing out. We came back and we said, let's do public meeting number 2 and workshop 2 to find out, did we hear you right from workshop 1? And then workshop 3 in January with the steering committee to present some findings and get some more guidance. And then workshop 4 was online with staff to refine that. And here we are in April for the last public input with our findings and our recommendations. Eventually, that'll go into a final study presented to City Council in the coming few weeks. So let's go over real quick what our mission and goals for the Wellness and Recreation Center. Keith, would you mind walking us through that?
Absolutely. We do this on all of our projects. We want to make sure that the community, the facility reflects the needs of the community. The goals are follows. We want to talk about research and market analysis. We want to understand Taylor, Texas, what makes Taylor, Texas special, how it's different from other places around. I hope you believe, I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces. We wanted to have public outreach and community engagement. Several of you have been to the 2 or 3 workshops we've had. We've met with the economic development teams, the school board, Boys and Girls Club, the Y. So we've talked to a lot of folks in our time here. And then talking about all the professional services, the stuff we know how to do, looking at sites, studying the operations, potential for partnerships. So we want to come out of this and answer 4 or 5 key questions. What's in the building? When's it going to open? How much is it going to cost? What's it going to cost when I can go into it? And then how much is it going to cost to operate year after year? So looking at the mission statement, we wanted to talk about a potential framework for City of Taylor indoor recreation facilities. We wanted to be sustainable and innovative. We really sought to involve key community stakeholders. I hope the team we worked with felt that we did so. We want a dynamic facility that promotes recreation, health, and well-being for all Taylor residents. And we're committed to delivering that detailed plan. You'll see it when we wrap it up here in the coming weeks. We're going to show you some preliminary site selection, concept design, and magnitude of cost estimates in the operations. You'll see a preview of all that tonight. Nick, you want to talk about the public input?
Good participation in Taylor, Texas. I can tell one thing as we go from community to community in Texas and across the United States, y'all have really good interest in this project, and I hope you're proud of that. It's evident by you being here tonight, so thank you for taking time to be here to share your thoughts. Now, it started at that workshop 1. This is the steering committee. They played a game with us where we tried to figure out what is going to be on your wish list. And so they helped inform us what they see the community's needs were. Then that night, we asked the community, what are your wants and needs for a wellness and recreation center? Good participation that night, as evidenced by this photo. And then a survey. All right, so there are different kinds of surveys. There's a scientifically valid survey or a statistically valid survey. You can say it either way. And then there could be an internet-based survey. You've heard of things like SurveyMonkey, something like that, a little more informal. So in Taylor, we did 2. We did a scientifically valid survey, and we asked the public, hey, anybody can take this survey, so put it on the internet. And guess what? The results were pretty identical. So that kind of backs up that you've got a pretty good survey going. That was all advertised through the Parks and Recreation Department, usual avenues like Facebook and website and word of mouth and so on. But it takes over 400 responses to make it statistically valid. And y'all had 467 residents respond. That's pretty strong. So, that confirms the outcome based on also what we heard on the internet survey. And here's what we found out. When asked, do you believe it's valuable for the city of Taylor to offer a wellness and recreation center to the community as a whole? 87% of people said yes. That's pretty strong. And then 13% said no. Have you or your household participated in any wellness recreation programs offered by the city of Taylor during this past year? Some have and some haven't. You heard Tyler talk about how the program is growing. But we think that the facility could be inhibiting people's access to more programming. Now, this is a really interesting piece of pie here, or pie chart. Counting yourself, how many people in your household are there? So looking at the ages of this, oh my gosh, that is a really well-balanced pie chart. I don't see this a lot in places I go. Usually there's a really strong dominance in a few of those pie pieces. Please check all the items below that you would consider to be benefits of a wellness recreation center. Just looking at the top three there: improves my physical health and wellness and fitness, provides additional recreation activities, age-friendly, accessible to all ages. That makes sense, right? What about the 13% of the people that said, this is not for me? This is not something I want in my community. What did they say? If you indicated that you do not believe the city of Taylor is offering wellness and recreation center and it has value, what would those reasons be? If you look at that, it says no tax increase. Is that a surprise that 13% would say, I just don't want to have the tax increase? 87% said, yeah, we see the need in the community. Check all the reasons why your household does not participate in recreation programs. Time's not convenient, programs not offered, not aware, lack of facilities, too busy. No big surprise there, really, given that you don't have a robust wellness center or recreation center. Need for amenities. What would you like to see in this? Pool for recreation and play, pool for lessons and fitness, pool for lap swimming. Hey, that's three. The top three were aquatics. That got our attention. Group exercise rooms, dance studios, cardio and equipment. That all fits into a robust wellness center, okay? But we were kind of shocked, and not shocked so much as just it got our attention that aquatics was the top three. Here's an interesting statistic here. Estimate number of households who have a need for amenities and what those are. So of those top items, look how many households that equates to in that statistically valid. 4,600 households, all the way down to 4,300 households. That's a lot of folks that have interest in this kind of facility in Taylor, Texas.
And that's out of 6,000 households.
That's out of current 6,000 households and growing, as you know. Need for programs and services. Adult group exercise classes. People want to get together as a community, especially for socialization, but there's something about an exercise class, if I know my friend's going to be there, it's going to help me get there, and participate. Drop in, walk, jog, that makes sense, right? Texans, I will tell you right now, it doesn't matter where you go in Texas, they crave trails, and they crave walking for exercise, walking for pleasure. Special events, arts and crafts and senior programs, no surprise there. Look how many households each one of those, about the same number. It drops off a little bit on senior programs to 3,400 households, but there's a robust need for these services in your community. That was the big takeaway. Here's another piece of pie that kind of got our attention. In a typical year, on average, how much money does your household spend per month on recreation, sports, fitness, and wellness? And you can see, $25 or less, all the way down to $26 to $100, and then even more than that. And I would venture to say that people are driving distances to get some of these services met that are paying the 200 plus and 100 plus. But it also shows that there are people that are in your area that maybe are on a fixed income and they are spending less. So we wanted to understand that a little better. On average, how far are you willing to travel to participate in recreation sports? Look at this. This is not as well balanced, but 5 to 9 minutes all the way around to 14 minutes to 19 minutes. You know, people are accustomed to driving from Taylor to go out of Taylor to get some of their needs met, right? And I think we heard over and over again, the goal, ultimate goal, is to try to provide more services here so we don't have to leave. We heard that over and over again. But 47% was 19 minutes or less. So you're accustomed to driving, but you'd like to stay closer if possible. And then we asked the question, which one statement below best describes your opinions of how the city of Taylor might subsidize a potential wellness recreation center? Now, subsidy would mean general fund tax revenue that would help pay to keep the building going. Is there any surprise that this is all over the pie? There's not one that says this is the dominant one. So 33% said 75 to 100% subsidy. That group of people wants it for as low cost out of pocket to them, all the way up to 100% got to pay for, the taxpayer, or excuse me, the users need to pay for it. No subsidy. So it's all over the board, but guess what? Everywhere I go, I see this. Same thing. So the hard part is when city council's trying to figure out, well, what are we going to do to balance this? Because we need to make some programs available to as many citizens as possible, but we have this fiscal responsibility. We have to recover costs for some of these things. So it's a tight, delicate balance they're looking for. So we kind of aimed in the middle with a pro forma model, that business model, and we're looking at 25% or less of subsidy, somewhere in that range between 50% subsidy and 75, somewhere in there, just to model it. We're not saying that's the decision yet. The city council gets to make that decision, but we've got to bring them something to react to. All right, so what about daily admissions? What would it cost me to go in there if I were a Taylor resident to offset these operation costs? So this is per day. So what did people say they're willing to pay? $10 per day, 24%, all the way down to $7 per day. Well, in order to give folks that we know need access to this, the cheaper we can make it, the more participation you're going to likely see. A lot of cities I see want to judge success based on the number of participants, maximum participation. We are a community. People come here. They feel welcome here. Cost isn't an inhibitor. So we try to price it that way to see how the models would work. So less than $7 per day, and I'm talking about youth and like seniors and youth. So in the pro forma model, what would that look like? Would you be willing to pay monthly for a membership? So not daily admission, but what about per month? Again, moderate would be right there in the middle of 50 to 59 per month, and so that's where we targeted. And then what is your age? Again, I was blown away because Taylor is so well balanced in age groups. Very multi-generational here, more so than most. And then how many years have you lived in the city of Taylor? Look at that, 0 to 5, 32%. A lot of people moving here, new ideas, lots of expectations, right? Look at the 31 plus, 21%. Don't change it. We like it the way it is. We like Taylor the way Taylor is. So there's a delicate balance somewhere in there that has to be struck to figure out when is the right time, what it can cost so that it's palatable to this range of people. You can see how that all breaks down right here, that 31% over 31 years all the way down to 32% for 5 years or less. And then what is your total household income? Again, just as diverse and as your multi-generational approach, your income is all over the place too. It'd be so much easier if this was a homogeneous income and everybody was all equal, but it's not. We're finding that there are people that are going to struggle to pay the fees to come in, and there are people that won't struggle to pay the fees to come in. So that's what that looks like. 30% or 50K or less. Those are the ones that are going to probably struggle. Up to 37%, 100K or more. But one of the biggest takeaways was that, again, it was a reminder that 87% indicated that there's value in adding a recreation center or wellness center to Taylor, Texas. And if you look at it on a piece of paper, you say, okay, let's take the wish list from the steering committee and put it on one column. Let's take the public input that we heard in the first meeting and put it on another column, and then the public survey results, and connect the dots. So you see the blue was an aquatic activity pool. It relates to aquatics at the public meeting and the pool for the public survey. I know it's a lot of squiggly lines, but it's showing that there's a lot of interest in all three categories. So that kind of told us, informed us, this is your base. You get these things right, and you're going to likely satisfy a lot of people, and they're going to want to come into your building. So we started with that. We said, okay, let's put those items that are in common on one side of the paper, and then let's take a look at what's left over. And we went back to the public, and we said, well, what about these items? Do these need to be on this list here? So on November 20th, we had public meeting number 2, and we said, did we hear you right? And what about these other items? This was interesting. 66 people who came to that meeting said, you're going in the right direction. We like what you're doing with your track, indoor track, the fitness and weights, the gymnasiums, the adventure track course. But then you say, well, okay, what about the they not like? Well, there's only 6 votes on the biggest item, and that was for esports because they say most people game at home. Maybe that's not what we want to see in our building. But then I looked up here at this comment about esports and gaming. Some people said, you know, this is incredibly important to some of our younger generations. And I got to thinking, who all was in that room that day? It probably wasn't a lot of younger folks that night, but it makes sense to them for the future industry in Taylor that maybe that's something we'd take a look at. So those were you can see there were more likes than dislikes or need to improve, which led to a program, because this is where Keith, the architect, gets involved. So Keith, you want to tell us about the program?
Yes, sir. So program, we distill the activities that are going to be formed in particular spaces, and some of them are more tuned to those activities than others. But the recommended full program included these spaces. They total just over 100,000 square feet. They include the administrative lobby and support spaces that every building needs. We talked about locker spaces, changing rooms, universal changing rooms, a short-term child watch, so young families can bring their children there for a short period of time. They can do their workout and know their children are taken care of. Some community rooms, classrooms, spaces similar to this, an esports gaming room. We've got birthday party rooms. This is an incredibly popular event. You can have a birthday party for your child and invite all the kids over, staff clean up for you. I did it myself when my daughter was younger. It's great. We don't want to forget the seniors, so we've got a senior adult lounge and an outdoor patio and gathering space. Maker spaces and a community events hall. Again, a larger version of this space that might be subdividable for a larger community event. The maker spaces, a flexible sort of crafts room space. Maybe it has a laser printer in it or a 3D printer, something like that. A kitchen to support those events. And then turning to more of the athletic spaces, 2 high school gyms or a gymnasium and multi-purpose athletic space that has capacity for 2 high school basketball courts or 4 middle school courts. We can also put volleyball on that floor or pickleball, as well as other activities, martial arts and so forth. A turf space, we're seeing more and more of this. It's a synthetic grass space for indoor functional fitness training. Excuse me. Mick talked about the passion for walking among Texans. So an indoor jog walk track for walking and running inside. And adding to that what we're calling an adventure hill track and introducing a ramp or stairs so that you can start to vary your workout as you run around inside. Fitness and weights areas. These are general fitness and weights areas for cardio, multi-purpose training and plate work. And then 2 group exercise classrooms for whether it's aerobics, yoga, Zumba, any of these group exercise activities. And then on the aquatic side, a 6-lane lap pool that's cold water for lap swimming, And then also a more shallow warm water feature, a leisure pool, and that could be for therapy and play, learn to swim activities with a water slide, and then a spa. And so those are 3 different water temperatures, the lap pool, the leisure pool, and the spa. People also expressed some interest in a photovoltaic system, perhaps solar hot water preheat for the water systems, and then a LEED certification. So again, this list totals over 111,000 square feet. I was candidly surprised at the size of it, but we asked you what you wanted, that's what you told us. So let's look at what that might look like inside. This is about 8,000 square feet of fitness area. We're finding this is popular with a lot of users. The more, the better. This is a big part of revenue and being able to capture, make the building pay for itself. Here's the gymnasium. This happens to be 1 high school gym with 2 middle school cross courts. You can see all the striping on the ground there. I think the cross court's in the maroon right here. Oops, sorry. The cross court's in the maroon, volleyball or pickleball is in the white here, and then the main court is in the gray. So we can have all those activities not happening at the same time, but we can accommodate them over time and with scheduling. And we can help provide nets up in the ceiling that drop down to subdivide those activities as well, so we can have different activities occur in the court at the same time. Aerobics dance studio, these generally have a wood dance floor on them. Group exercise, they're set up with mirrors. You could use them for dance. Yoga, we have different lighting levels to facilitate that. Senior lounge, support spaces, living room spaces, quiet spaces where people can gather, you can talk, you can play games, more of a living room-like space. You can hang out, have a cup of coffee. And then some of the fun spaces, aquatics, this is an indoor leisure pool, so this is that warmer water space. These have a variety of features. So over here we have a zero depth area. It's a beach, so the little guys can go into that water in a gentle way and get comfortable with it over time. We can have a little bit deeper area here for some programming, so you can do warm water exercise, you can do some therapy if you're recovering from an injury on a limb. And then also this lazy river, and we induce a current around that river, but you can walk against that current. So that really serves all ages and abilities. If you're coming back from a knee injury, say, you can walk against that current. The water is very supportive against your joint, and you get the therapy. It's all well supported as you walk. On the other hand, it's a lot of fun to flow with the current, and it's multi-generational. You can do it with your family. You can do it with your kids, a parent, whatever. Here's that walk jog track. Usually we put these up above in the gym. We like to think of these as advertisements. We want a community recreation aquatic center like this, it's a little bit like a mall. We want you to walk around and see all the activities. If you go in the facility and you can see somebody walking around that track, it helps animate the facility as well. Here's that adventure track. So in this case, there's a circuit that allows you to go down this ramp and then go up the stairs if you want more of an aerobic exercise as you walk around. Child watch space, we love doing these spaces. We love animating them in a way to make it a fun place for the kids to go. So when you say, I'm going to go to work out, your kid's going to want to go and not say, do you really have to do that today? But we love scaling it down. We want to make it visually exciting for the kids. We want to talk about themes. In this case, this is a community that was near an airport, and so they wanted to celebrate the airport. So we introduced the theme of aviation to the space. It's a little bit smaller aerobics dance studio. You can see this is being used for a gymnastics or a young dance class. So these are flexible spaces. Again, they service a whole variety of people with different ages and abilities. Here's that community events hall. This one is in Grapevine, Texas. Is this Grapevine, Mick? And the great thing is we put a classroom on the stage, and there's a sound wall that can close in that track, so it creates a stage. So if you're going to have a small theatrical event, maybe my wife's a music teacher, she just had her recital, we could rent this hall out. You'd have a formal event with a lectern there. You could have a performance up there. You could have a small musical event. But then we can close this curtain off and make it formal. We can operate that as a separate classroom where an activity or a class could take place, and we can use this for some other activity, a group dinner or meeting. Going with these facilities, we're also seeing more of a trend into a teaching kitchen or a healthy catering, a healthy eating, healthy teaching kitchen. People quite often talk about wanting to have a full kitchen with commercial appliances. We're finding these are both expensive. They can be a liability. They invite a lot more regulation in the facility. Really, if you're renting this space out for a large dinner, you're going to bring a caterer in there. They need a place that they can sort the dishes out, plate the food, and move it in. They're not preparing the food there necessarily. And so this suits their needs, but then it's also great for programming, whether you're teaching youth to cook. If you're teaching young adults to eat healthy, even myself, I could probably benefit from a good class here. So it's a bit more of a flexible space that serves the different activities. Here's an arts crafts maker space. The key is to making this flexible without making it unusable because it's too flexible. But I think having some good power, tables and chairs, suitable sinks to support the activities. And then this is an esports gaming room. Mick, where is this one? It's North Carrollton, Texas. The key is having the wiring and the space for all the monitors and computers. And I think we think of kids in the basement and they're playing with their headsets, but the fact is that it's a community event that these kids are learning from other people. So other people are watching people play. They're helping them move through the game activity. And then a distinction that we want to make is within the gymnasium, back in the back here, you see a gym, and it's got the traditional wood floor. Excuse me. It's striped for a variety of activities, the basketball, pickleball, volleyball. Over here, we have a synthetic floor. It's also striped for several activities. It's a different kind of resilient floor. It's good on your feet. It's great for court sports. And then we can also, if we have the space, we've palletized the turf. This is synthetic turf, and we can move that turf in and make it into a turf space so you could do some futsal or soccer on it. So there it is with the synthetic floor, and there it is set up with the turf. And you can see we've got batting cages up here on the ceiling as well. We don't want to forget about spaces to just hang out. We did a project up in Michigan. One of the things we heard from families is we're so busy, we're going all the time. We just want a place where we can pick up a pizza and sit down with our family before whatever the evening activities, and we can have dinner together. They wanted to make that kind of space. So we don't want to forget these niches just to hang out, have a conversation, spend time together. Facility we did in Allen, Texas. And as you look at the plan, there's an opportunity, I think, to have an outdoor fitness deck. Outdoor fitness deck. So we've got space. This is a special floor tile. We've got some heavy plates up here. There's some other activities. We've got the big ropes, these sleds that you can push across the turf. And so to be able to do that inside and outside. So we want to consider in terms of talking about the Fitness and Recreation Center, we looked at different sites. We said that's one of the goals. We wanted to talk about different sites. Where could it be in Taylor, Texas? Staff were kind enough to provide us with GIS information. Downtown is right in there, and we're just right there. Sorry, my hand's a little bit shaky. So the gray area is the larger urban growth boundary. What's it called in Texas? Extraterritorial jurisdiction. We looked at a variety of sites out within this gray circle. We focused on the spaces that were owned by the city-owned properties. These are the dark green, the Kelly green color. And there were two sites that stood out. One was the sports complex here on the north end of town, and then the other large space was Murphy Park. And the reason that those two spaces stood out, in all our work we've come up with some criteria. We find that these facilities generally need about 8 to 10 buildable acres. And that means that when I say buildable acres, we need 8 to 10 acres of space that's relatively flat or minimal slope, because the building's going to be a couple acres. We found over time that you're going to need an acre or a square foot of parking for every square foot of building you build. So if my building is 2 acres, I'm going to need 2 more acres for parking because people are going to want to drive to this activity. And then on top of that, we probably need some space for landscaping, some driveways. Stormwater is becoming a bigger and bigger issue as we move forward. So all that together gives us these rules of thumb. We're looking for something that's about 8 to 10 acres of buildable area. So these are some of the key city-owned properties, and the two, obviously the airport is a big one, but we don't want to put the recreation center on the side of the airport. The cemetery here is a big space. Don't want to put the recreation center in the cemetery. And so Murphy Park stood out as one large parcel, and then the sports complex stood out as the other. So we looked at the sports complex, and there were 3 sizable parcels. This one here, the 5.3 acres and the 13.8 acres. The key about these 2 parcels is that to acquire that much area, we would have to displace parking. And I think that's probably parking that's needed for these different activities here of baseball, softball, and soccer. And then this is actually a black sod prairie, blackland prairie. And so this has, from a wildlife and culture standpoint, there's a desire to maintain that as it is. And it's also the most remote, farthest in from the park. So it's a long way from over here to get back over here. And it's not just the travel, but it's the water and the sewer piping that we would need as well for the facility. So this is a map. North is up. Before it was that way. Sorry. And so here's the black sod prairie piece. There's the 5 plexes of diamonds. And so all the utilities are well away from this parcel back here. So we also looked at the site in Murphy Park, and we felt for the purposes of the example of this was a really centrally located space. When we look at the survey data, we found the need to really be able to make this accessible to everybody of all ages, abilities, their demographic and ability to pay. And we felt like this was the most centralized location in the community. Looking at the site, we've got the lake here, but water lines are available throughout the site. Water and sewers available. And so as we continued to study this, we started sketching it out on paper and felt like we could probably make it happen. We looked at a building, and one of the nice things about that site is there's actually a fair amount of grade. There's about 30 feet of drop from the area where the Legion building is down to the lake. And so that provides an opportunity for us to do something that we like to do, which is enter on the upper level. This has the benefit of you actually, the pay point or the point at which you would start to pay for service is right here. And so all of the public spaces, the community event hall, the classrooms, maybe the e-gaming space can all be upstairs in front of control. It also gives you the opportunity for a nice lobby and public space that you can look down and you can see all the activities. Big benefit there. And then, so down on the lower level, you have the gymnasium, a locker room, the swimming pools, party rooms. You've got the fitness space, and then a fitness deck that looks out on the west towards the pool. So here's how that pencils out. Here's the upper floor. You'd have the front door. The orange is circulation, so you would go up and you'd have the events hall, some of the group exercise classrooms, the senior area, a nice lounge area. We've got the pink is some administrative offices. The art room is back here. Opens up to a nice big fitness area with indoor space here and then an outdoor deck overlooking the lake. And then the tan is a track that goes around, circumnavigates the 2 gymnasiums, and then you can get off and you can go down the adventure track through a stair and ramp combination. Going down some stairs at the end of the lobby, past the view to the pools, we'd have the leisure pool and the lap pool. What's nice about this is we can go out the door, and this facility, remember, it's right next to the existing pools that are being remodeled in Murphy Park right now. We can have this facility cooperate with those outdoor pools in the summer, so that minimizes staffing moving forward. It's a series of birthday party rooms and storage for the pools. We've got locker rooms here, so you could go through the locker rooms to get to the swimming pools, and then the gymnasium and the court and turf space down below. So those fit on top of each other like that. And here's how it would fit in Murphy Park. We heard about the interest and the passion for this park. It's the center, it's the hub of the community. Concern about all the trees and the amenities there, the barbecue pavilion, and the outdoor court sport spaces. So this is in the area where those would be. We'd like to displace the court spaces over here a little closer to the lake and maybe move the pavilion up here, really suit it to some of the activities that are beloved and take place every year throughout the course of the year in the community. And we also want to take care in structuring the parking. So we built this around some of the trees that are in the park, and we want to supplement that with more trees. And so there's a nice alley of some live oaks that would extend up from the front door. Those are already there. We want to preserve those and make a beautiful shaded walkway that leads you into the facility. And then the idea of having the pavilion, it's back here a little bit closer to the stadium, the stadium and the food truck, or the stadium and the parking, and so have opportunity for some food trucks maybe that you can back right into the pavilion. Here's the existing pools, and then perhaps expand onto this with some of the other court space and the mini golf here. So this is all predicated around a particular schedule. When you ask us, okay, Keith, you've told us about all this great stuff. How much is it going to cost? Well, that's dependent upon a schedule. So we start out with the funding question. Somehow this has to get funded. We got to come up with the money, probably through a general obligation bond and an election. And then it takes about a year in our experience to design the building and create the blueprints for it. The project would go out to bid. That would be in mid-2027. Construction, these buildings take about 2 years to build. So that takes us into 2029, and we'd have an opening in, we're saying here, April of 2029. So to date, we've told you about all these spaces. It's about 111 square feet. We've done what we call designed. We've budgeted to a design. We'd like to go back and talk about design to a budget. We said if we had this potential base program, what if we, instead of building the whole thing, we built just part of it? And so we look back at what the public meetings told us and the surveys told us, and we said if we built just the basic parts, it's about 64,000 square feet. Remember, the full build out was about 111,000 square feet. The construction, based on that schedule, our best guess right now is about $41.8 million. The soft costs, we set aside soft costs. These are for design services, contingencies, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. If you take the building and you tip it upside down, all the stuff that would fall out, that's furniture, fixtures, and equipment. That's about $13.5 million for a total project cost of $55.3 million. We can always add alternates to that, so we could, adding to this space, which it includes the recreation activity pool, fitness and weights, a dance studio, one of the gyms, the classrooms, senior lounge, child watch, changing rooms, and support spaces. We can always add an events hall to that for $2 million, or we could add that second gym for about $6.7 million. So there's choice in this. We can tune it to the ability, the desire of the community, and the ability to pay. So here's how that would look. This is the base program is all of these spaces, and the spaces that are highlighted here are the future phase. So we're not losing a lot. And these are pieces that could be the green spaces are maybe something that we could do as an alternate. So the magnitude of cost for the full program, that's that whole 111,000 square feet. This goes up from 41 million to 65 million. Soft costs are 20 million and a total project cost of about 85 million. And honestly, these are not surprising numbers. I'll tell you, working all around the country, Texas is actually a very affordable construction market, so that's the good news here, unlike places that we work on the West Coast. But very rational, and we've been just checking these lately. So feel confident in them. Once again, we can phase this work and we can add alternatives. And I think, Mick, you were going to talk about the,
Sorry about that. Okay, so just a couple of points real quick about the sites. You know, those were the sites that we were able to study because that's what the city currently owns. But do you realize that your city is going to be growing, so you're likely going to have community parks that are going to be added to your community. So that means those were studies that could, you know, for what we have now, but there's potential for more parkland because the needs are going to grow. So a community park is likely a good candidate for this recreation center. It doesn't have to be Murphy Park. One thing, though, we did hear from over and over again, especially the folks that are challenged maybe with motor vehicles, they walk, they ride bicycles. Murphy Park, they felt like was accessible to them. So that was kind of a good thing in that regard. Now, I apologize about those duplicate slides you just saw there, but I wanted to point out that, you know, Keith threw some big numbers at you. Just down the road in Pflugerville, Texas, we broke ground the other day on an $85 million recreation center, not much bigger than the program that we just showed you. It's a full recreation center, multi-generation in downtown East. It's coming very soon. But that phased approach that Keith talked about, that's not uncommon either. Georgetown built their recreation center in a first phase. Then they added to it in a second phase. And in September of this year, they had a successful bond program 2 years ago. They're going to receive another $43 million to expand that recreation center again. And guess what? It's very close to the same size as the one that is your full meal deal, if you were to look at it that way. So it's not uncommon to see, even in your neighborhood, for people to take that phased approach like Keith just explained to you. All right, what about operations? So, you know, we hired Ballard King Group, who specializes in operations, to tell us about best practices on this rec center, built on your demographics, and we did some comparative data, very conservative planning. The assumptions here, you can see, based on that concept that Keith put together for us, first year of operation would be in 2029 or later, and the city of Taylor would be the operator. We had to make an assumption that somebody would be the operator. Let's start with the city, okay? Presence of other providers would remain the same, and then you can see debt service and depreciation is not factored in. That's because you know, the bond program is going to be take care of that debt. It's almost never done to imagine that a building could pay for itself in this regard. That would be a capital cost, just like you would capitalize your city hall, like you would capitalize your police department. That's what that refers to. So your hours of operations, Monday through Friday, you can see them right there, all the way through. That's based on a 95.5 hour week. Now, the most hours we see in one of our rec centers is about 106. And they're open from like 5 a.m. to 11 o'clock at night. That's not what we're recommending here. Start with 95.5 hours, see how the building goes. If you need to adjust, we always say it's easier to add hours than it is to take them away, okay? So that's kind of a work in progress, but we're starting with a model of 95.5 hours, which is very common. And then there's this, the number one cost that we know is going to be in this recreation center is the people. It's the staff. So anything we can do to minimize the staff needs by design, for example, lifeguards. If we can eliminate blind spots in the pool, does not have to have as many lifeguards, you've just lowered your operating cost. So we would look at our best practices in that, but this is the full-time staff and the part-time staff we believe you're gonna need. And then there's those expenses besides full-time and part-time staff or commodities like supplies and chemicals. This model takes it all the way down to janitorial supplies for this building. And it's based on history and proven recreation centers across the United States and factored into your market. Then there's also contractual, such as utilities and communications and that type of thing. So what does it come down to? What does the base program that Keith presented to you, what would that look like at a 65% cost recovery? Well, that membership for a youth or a student for a monthly rate would be about $12. For an adult, 24, a household 55, and a senior, $12 for a month, which just seems very affordable. Then you can see that in that you get the programs for recreation, aquatics, and fitness, rentals, gym for the gyms, the rooms, and those party rooms. And then you can also look for sponsorship. Sponsorship can be a lot of things. It can be naming. It can be sponsorship with a local yoga studio that wants to come in and teach. Because a lot of people will come in and learn dance, or they'll learn yoga at a rec center, and then when they want a better experience, they'll go to a boutique. So you contract with those locals to make that happen, to elevate your brand. And then there's vending and resale. So what does that all add up to in expenses? You can see here, it's a lot. But then you also have the potential for revenue, and that's what's driving the 65% cost recovery right here, or an annual subsidy of $664,000, which is what you see like if you go down the road in Georgetown and Pflugerville. So we did a 5-year comparison because year 1 is going to be just a portion of the year you'll be open. Year 2 is your first full operating year. You can see that your cost recovery is trending on these models around 65% going forward. Now, built into this is replacement of capital, meaning if your roof is damaged and it needs to be replaced, if your HVAC goes out, if you have another issue such as that, you have the capital that's been set aside. That replacement capital grows over time, so you're not asking the general fund to take care of your building if you have a great need, that type of thing. So it's with the cost, this recovery rate is with that escrow account, this is without. So it's not much difference, but you get that escrow account to pull from if you really need it. Very important business plan. So here is a range. This is 65%, which I showed you right here. Now, if you charge more to your residents, then your average subsidy goes down. Okay, that makes sense. This is, again, is the difficult part that I think the city council is going to have to wrestle with to say, what's the right amount to charge for entry here? What can our residents afford that doesn't create a barrier? And then we're fiscally responsible organization. We've got to answer to how much we can subsidize here. And so we're given these ranges to add to that discussion going forward. So this is our recommendation based on the opening year of 2029. And this is based on Taylor residents. Now, you have a secondary market, people that are going to be willing to drive. Remember that 19-minute drive? There's going to be people willing to drive to come use this, but they're not taxed for that general obligation. So they have to pay more to come into your building, and that helps to offset those operations costs. And this is a very conservative model. So I think you can actually count on beating that average subsidy, but we have to take that conservative approach. So then we asked about capital and other partnerships. We sat down with the YMCA. We asked other outside agencies. We sat down with Taylor Boys and Girls Club just to hear what they're doing. What are their goals? What would do they see an opportunity? Both of these agencies said, you know what? We have interest in maybe becoming a partner with you all as a operations partner. Well, what does that look like? So what we're recommending you do is you've got a model, a pro forma, that's based on the city running it. Simply have them bid on the same model. Now, that program that Keith pointed out to you was based on a lot of public input and verified by the public. So it's only fair that if they're going to turn in a bid, they need to be bidding on the same thing that we just showed you that the city could do it for. Not bring in a whole new, no, this is what your community needs. Trust us. We've done this in Hutto. We've done this in, Cedar Park. No, this is our solution for our community, and this is what we're asking for. So bid on that. That would be our recommendation. Let's see. So again, the feasibility study just shows what the city can do. Now it's up to them to show you what they can do. All right. Now, There's a couple of things that I would ask that you pay attention to, and that is going to be, what are their fees and charges going to be for the city of Taylor residents when they turn in their bid? And what subsidies do they need from the city to help operate and require? Okay, what capital costs for roof and HVAC replacements do they have built in? Sometimes you hear, well, we do a fundraiser, that kind of thing. Well, how far does that go? Does it go all the way to cover it, or is the city going to be asked to step in again? You know, scholarships for underprivileged citizens. Everybody does these across the United States. They scholarship people that need access to these facilities. But you've got a great number of people that need services. I heard a statistic today that the school district is offering the lunch program to 70% of the kids here. You can't scholarship everybody. So there's got to be a plan, and one of those plans might be to keep the cost of entry low. So we need to understand, if you're going to come in and operate our building, we need to understand about how we're going to give access to a great number of people. And then proof of public money is a good investment. We want to see open books. We want to see transparency where our investment goes. So you need to open your books to us so we can see that our investment, this capital money, is benefiting our residents here. And then community access to publicly fund building for events and programs. Sometimes these operators will get in there, and then you get maybe 4 days a year to do an event. Put a lot of capital into this. It seems like there ought to be a lot more public access to these things. So those are things I just want to caution you to watch for. Lastly, Keith talked about this. We don't have any knowledge today that this is going to happen. We just know that if it does happen on this schedule, these are the numbers that would support it. So any delay would mean we need to come back together. But the final study, again, is to be determined, but it's coming in the next few weeks, we believe. So in summary, we're recommending a base program of 64,800 square feet at a base price cost of $55 million to be opened in April of 2029 at an operations subsidy between 65 and 75%. So we need your help. We need your input. You've taken time out of your day to come here. We're going to go to the back and answer any questions you have, and we're going to gather around these comment cards, and we'd like to know, what are your goals around this? Did we achieve what we needed to for your community? Are we bringing the right community solution? Have we answered your questions, yes or no? Because then we can follow up with website presence and that type of thing. And then if you want, you can leave your name and an email and phone number, but you don't have to. It's optional. But we need to hear from you. The city council would like to hear from you. Everybody ready to do that? All right. We're going to go to the back. Staff will be in the back. Keith and I will be in the back. We'll answer any questions and begin the comment cards. And thank you again for coming. We had a request for a question for everyone to hear, so you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I have several questions. Number one, has there been consideration on the fees based on the ability to pay? This is a poor community. You say 70% of the kids need free or reduced price lunch. Is that a consideration?
Yes, I think we showed that in our charts, that trying to keep the prices as low as possible. Right, and so a lot of times we see agencies will do that through a scholarship program, which you're accustomed to doing as well. That's the hard part, yeah. Yeah, I hear you. That's a good statement. I think that needs to also be on the comment card.
Secondly, the Boys and Girls Club is not an operator. I'm wondering what we do is after school and summer programming.
You may not want to bid on it then, yeah.
We'll do that program.
Right.
After-school stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah.
For adults, for people over 65, the Silver Sneaker program, insurance companies pay for, means that people in our age level, we don't pay.
Yeah.
If
Silver Sneakers is definitely. And that'd be part of the operating plan as you move in, yeah.
And the other question is, why didn't you consider Robinson Park?
You remember why that was?
There's not
I don't know if acreage.
buildable acreage down there. Yeah. It's mostly in the floodplain and then the quality of what it was prior to a park. There's some issues with that. We did look at all the city-owned properties, and that's something that, Keith, we had that slide that it could be a future. We only looked at what we own currently.
Okay, love to get to those comments.